What is the one mechanic present in every Arkham game? A simple button press is all that is required to pull this move off, and it's become a staple of this series ever since Arkham Asylum. That's right, it's the counter button. This may seem like an ordinary mechanic that makes sense to be in a game like this, but in this video we're going to explain exactly why countering is fundamentally flawed. In other words, why countering in Batman Arkham is for cowards. Batman always conquers every room he walks into. Once Batman is in a room with a group of criminals, well, they're all doomed, which is exactly the problem. You see, it makes the fights unfair. Letting the criminals hit you from time to time makes the fight less one-sided. Sometimes you should not hit the counter button to make the fight more realistic. Batman is human, that's one of the things that makes him so relatable. So him never being hit back ruins an integral part of his character. He's Bruce Wayne, not Brute Wayne.
Why do criminals never counter back? If Batman counters an enemy, why don't they just counter that counter? I mean, Batman counters all the time, so you'd think that criminals would have picked up on his fighting style and simply countered back. You could argue that these enemies aren't very smart, but no enemy counters back in any of these games. Are you trying to tell me that every single one of these criminals has the brain size of a cornflake? I mean, that's really hard to believe. Now, there is an enemy that counters back in Arkham Origins, but Batman kills cops in that game, which makes it quite obvious that Batman Arkham Origins is the best one of the series, and shouldn't be compared to any of the other games in the series, so it doesn't count.
Another issue is that the counter button is the same as the dance button. Batman is a naturally talented person, and one of the most well-known aspects of his character are his dancing skills. And Batman Arkham perfectly translates this into gameplay. Unfortunately, the dance button is the same button as the counter button, which means that when you're in the middle of an intense battle with thugs, Batman will just start dancing in the middle of it. And even though he's a great dancer, he wouldn't just dance in the middle of a fight, so I find this to be quite disrespectful to his character. Batman likes displaying his dance skills to people, but he wouldn't display these skills to thugs he's actively beating up, as they're not deserving to see his graceful dances. Why do the criminals just stand around while Batman counters? Why don't they all just gang up on Batman? Again, you could say they aren't intelligent, but Batman is a genius, so why does he always fight dumbasses? Some people say that Arkham combat is like a rhythm game, but rhythm games are for weebs, which just confirms the fact that this entire series is an anime.
To be honest, it's not just the countering mechanic that disappointed me, it was the entire combat system. The studio that developed this combat system, Rockstar, made the GTA series, among other things, and those games have extremely good combat. Many games have taken inspiration from Arkham's combat. Now, for the majority of these instances, this has been terrible, but there is one game that did the counter mechanic perfectly, and that game is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is one of my favorite games of all time, and it revolutionized the countering mechanic, and we will be making an entire video on that soon.
If you counter in the Arkham games, I'm sorry, but you're a coward. And a weeb.